I'm gonna put a banana in your tailpipe. And I'm just burning, doing a neutron dance. Ooh, fuck you, Eddie.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Mr. Murphy, an honor to see you again, sir.
Yeah, man, please call me Eddie.
Eddie, my good friend Eddie, good to see you again,
just call
sir.
me Eddie. Mr. Murphy made me feel old when they say Mr. Murphy. The very last time I went out to a nightclub, that's why I stopped going to clubs. I was in the club and the girl was going past. She said, "Excuse me, Mr. Murphy." And I was like, you know what? It's over.
All right, we're gonna bring it back. Eddie, good to see you again, Eddie. Good to see you. I'd love to go back to the beginning. Before you were ever Axel, you were that close to being a Ghostbuster. And I would love to know how far you got in the process of figuring out who your Ghostbuster was gonna be before Axel came along.
It was really simple. I was gonna do Ghostbusters, but Beverly Hills Cop was a leading role, and Ghostbusters was like an ensemble thing, and I was be one of the guys, so we went with Beverly Hills Cop. And I had never done, I'd never been the lead guy, so.
Right. Well, I think you made the right choice. I think
because Ghostbusters are really classic.
Well,
I would love, at best, I would love to have been in both of them. Yeah.
They're still making them, man.
Yeah, but back then, that would have been cool to have been Ghostbusters and Beverly Hills Cop. That'd have been, they would have shot a rocket off in my yard.
One of my favorite sort of pieces of trivia is that you guys name drop Sylvester Stallone a lot throughout this series. And for people that know the history behind it, they know that Stallone was gonna be Axel. What do you think the Sylvester Stallone Axel Foley would have been like?
Nothing like Axel Foley. I'm gonna put a banana in your tailpipe. It'd have been menacing. It'd have been mean when it was like, "You're gonna follow me? I'm gonna put a banana in your tailpipe." No funniness.
Because he didn't want to be funny, right? He wanted it to be.
It would have been like, he did a movie. What was the name of that movie he did? Not
Cobra?
Cobra.
Yeah.
I kind of think Cobra. He took what he was gonna do with Beverly Hills Cop and did Cobra.
Yeah. I gotta tell you, I think the Axel F theme is one of the greatest themes in the history of movies.
Oh yeah, great music.
It's so good. I'm sort of curious as an actor, do you know when you're shooting a scene on set, do they come over and say, "Hey, we're gonna play the theme in this moment"? Is it?
No.
So none of the Needle Drop, Pointer Sisters or Glenn Fry, none of them?
You don't know what music they're gonna use.
Would you wanna know? Would you wanna know, like, hey, heads up, they're gonna do the Axel F theme right here?
No, yeah, I only wanna know what's going on right in the scene. Not what they're gonna put in after it and all that stuff. Because they don't know that till they get in and try different stuff. It would be, if I was thinking that, it might affect how I walked or what I was playing the scene. I walk in the room and I'm thinking, I'm just burning, doing a neutron dance.
As someone who walks around Chicago with my AirPods in, listening to it, I think it does affect how because I think I'm walking really cool, but I'm pretty sure anyone who sees me just walking around is going, what is he walking like that?
Is he listening to neutron dance? Well, then he has no excuse to be walking like that.
To my advice, I am always listening to neutron dance. You mentioned the banana in the tailpipe, because I know that originally it was supposed to be a potato, right? I'm sort of curious, when you figured out as an actor that you were in a place where you could stand up and go, no, that doesn't work, it needs to be this. Because that's such a monumental moment that happened only because you stood up and changed it.
Well, from the very beginning, I'm improvising and coming up with stuff. I was watching 48 Hours a couple of months ago, and that's my first movie, and it's like, oh wow, I wrote that, and that's my line, and I came up with that, and so from the very beginning, I guess it's from coming from Saturday Night Live, it came on the set with, oh no, how about this, and what if we do that, and what if, and the director kept saying on 48 Hours, this isn't a comedy, Eddie, and I was, whoa, and a lot of his stuff just got in because it was, funny, but we weren't trying to be funny, but I was always, we weren't supposed to be a comedy, but I was always, from the very beginning, saying, how about trying to add it and make it funny?
Well, and obviously it worked out well. I'll cut you loose on this. There's an opening scene in this film when you're driving down the street and people are shouting, Axel, hey Axel, fuck you, Axel. When you're walking around the street, what do people yell at you?
Not fuck you, Axel, but people scream out to me a lot from my stand-up. I did this thing where I would how a lot of foreigners would hear my stuff, and then I just know I cursed a lot, and then they would curse at me on the street, like, Eddie, fuck you, Eddie. And people scream that out. Anywhere I go, someone will go, fuck you, Eddie. And
How long did
hey, fuck you, dude.
How long did it take you to figure out, like, okay, that's okay? Like, they're not actually...
I knew immediately where it was from. Fuck you, Eddie. I knew immediately where it was from. My kids, though, at first time, they was like, why is that man cursing at it?
It's a legitimate question. Mr. Murphy, they're giving me the wrap. I just want to end by saying, man, like I grew up with you. I was raised on your films. I learned what great comedy and humor was because of watching you, man. So I just want to say thank you for everything.
Thank you.
It's a real honor. Guys, good to see you both again.
Good to see you.
Obviously, it's the 4th time that Eddie is playing this character, but something that to me is even crazier, and correct me if I'm wrong, neither of you guys have ever done a sequel to any of your own projects. You've never returned to a character before. Am I wrong about that?
No. Yeah, you're right. I tried, but it didn't work out.
Because we almost got Tremors.
Almost got Tremors, yeah, for TV. But no, I never have.
Is that just been kind of by accident? Was it just a conscious choice, or do you just sort of pick roles that
Nobody
it's hard
wants to see me for a second time.
Yeah. That's just how it works.
No, but you know what I think? Actually, you put your finger on something, and that is that people, you realize that the reason that there's been 4 Beverly Hills Cops is because Axel Foley is a character that you want to see again and again and again. And Eddie Murphy as Axel Foley is something that is just infectious. And it's really, it's like you go, where is that guy going to be in 5 years? Where is he going to be in 10 years? You definitely have that feeling about him. That's why it works. That's why it continues to work 4 times in a row.
Do you guys have that feeling about any of your characters? Are there anyone that you're just sort of curious, like, where is that guy today?
Sure. I think about that with plenty of my characters. You want me to pick one?
Sure. It's 30 years since Angels in the Outfield. Is he still?
Where's that guy?
Does he still show up to every game?
Yeah.
And everyone's looking
Does
at him
he still
going,
see angels? That's a funny one. Yeah, sure. How about Don John? Where's John Martello these days? Is he still alone?
So many questions I have about that guy.
Yeah.
So many questions.
I'm not saying that should be a sequel, but
you're not saying it shouldn't either. Give the people what they want, man. You have a great line in this film where you tell Eddie that 94 is not your finest hour, which feels a little bit like a dig on Beverly Hills Cop.
It's not a little bit of dig.
And, okay, here's the thing. I love Beverly. Maybe because I was a kid and I love the theme park angle of it. I love Beverly Hills Cop.
A lot of people do. A lot of people do.
They're defenders.
And a lot of people don't.
There are dozens of us.
I'll tell you who doesn't like it. Eddie Murphy.
Okay, I was wondering, like, what was the vibe? When you have to deliver that line to him, you have to make fun of an Eddie Murphy movie to Eddie Murphy. What's the vibe on set?
Yeah, no, he speaks openly about not liking that movie. And I will openly admit, I have not seen part 3. And when I told him that, he was like, see.
Okay, so that's kind of like you don't do the rewatch. Like, I did the rewatch before coming in here.
I did the rewatch, part 1 and
but
part 2.
But you skipped 3?
I did.
All right. You're missing out. I'm
Maybe I gotta go back, I guess.
All right, fair enough. We have to talk about 1984, which I think as a movie fan might be one of the greatest years in Hollywood history. Because not only do you have the original Beverly Hills Cop, you got Footloose, you got Ghostbusters, Karate Kid, Gremlins,
Wow.
Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
I didn't realize that.
All of those, I think.
Is it Thriller 1984 also?
Is
I know
it?
we're getting into music.
But still, like, that's a killer year. I'm just sort of curious, you were obviously a massive part of that year. What do you remember, not just as an actor, but like a movie fan? Because it feels like every weekend there was some sort of classic movie dropping in theaters.
Yeah, listen, I mean, I am a movie fan. I loved back then, and I still love to go get my popcorn and sit in the dark with a bunch of strangers and watch a movie. So all of those movies I went probably in New York, and saw and loved. And yeah, those, and it was an era where, when the 70s for me was kind of a little bit more of a serious sort of time of filmmaking. You had Michael Cimino and Sidney Lumet and
Scorsese.
And Peckinpah. There was and I love that stuff. That's the stuff that I was like dying to be in. So the '80s was sort of all those movies that you mentioned are like woohoo.
Yeah. Ghostbusters and Gremlins came out on the same day. The same weekend,
Wow,
which is
wow,
crazy.
wow.
They're pulling me out here really quick just because it's the 40th anniversary, and I've never asked you in all the times we've ever spoken. What was it like filming the dance scene from Footloose?
Yeah, it was really, really tiring. And I was also had a little bit of a inferiority complex because I had so many guys that were dressed exactly like me that were going to do like flips for me or jump off something, and I was like, I can do some of this stuff, you know. But so I remember looking, and it was like 4 guys in extremely tight, blue jeans and t-shirts, like standing by to jump in for me. So.
Well, guys, seriously, this is always a massive honor to be able to speak with both of you. Seriously, you've always been kind to me for a very long time, and I really do appreciate you. Seriously, thank you very much.
Good
Thanks,
to talk
man.
to you.
Good gentlemen, an honor. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.
I did a rewatch of the original trilogy before getting ready for that, and there were moments where I was watching you guys where I would lean in and go, are they trying not to laugh? Like, are they suppressing something? I'm sort of curious, if you guys were to sit down and particularly watch the first one, are there moments that you could pinpoint where you're actively trying not to laugh?
There's a real obvious one for us.
Which one?
It's when Eddie's saying, "You guys, sir, you should give these guys cops because they're not just cops; they're super cops." Eddie had just come out with that, and the way John hit it was if you ever see the movie again, he goes like this, and I put my hands in my pockets and squeezed my thighs so hard. I had this bruise.
Because Eddie was ad-libbing
Yeah,
the whole thing.
he was on fire, and we didn't want to blow that.
These
It was
guys
a
are
3-shot.
super cops. They ought to have capes.
Yeah, and it was a 3-shot too, so we were all in it, you know?
Now, what is the balance of if you can get the crew to laugh, it's a sign that you're doing something right,
Oh,
but then
yeah.
it also means you just blew the take. So is it
Yeah.
a sort of a double-edged sword of cracking and breaking?
Yeah,
Making the crew laugh is gold.
Yeah.
yeah.
I read a story, and I'd love for you guys to confirm or deny if it's true, that when they were casting Rosewood and Taggart, that they would put 2 actors together and have you improv, and your instruction was to act like an old married couple, and that from that interaction with you guys is where the line 5 pounds of unprocessed red meat came from. Is that true? Do you guys remember that initial audition?
Yeah, but they didn't tell us to improv.
Oh, really?
We just did it.
You just what? So is in that moment, how do you know? How do you feel? Because it feels like you guys have known each other for the longest time. Like, is it something that just happens?
Well,
But it was, though.
Yeah.
John showed up. I was already cast because I was cast when Stallone was playing it. And the first thing John says to me is, "So what is this?" And I said, "Well, it's a guy from Detroit." But you had already read the script.
no, I hadn't read the script.
Okay.
I only read one. I had 4 auditions, and when Mickey Rourke was going to do it, and then Stallone, and then it kept changing, and I was actually doing a play, and the casting director saw the play and called me in for the audition, and I went in, and I only read this one scene every time I went in
Yeah.
of where I
So he
punched
doesn't
Eddie.
say hello to me.
Yeah.
He says, "What is this?"
So he,
and just in me telling him, it just felt like I'd known him. And then we went in, and it was great. And Marty told me later he called up the heads of Paramount and said, "Wait till you see these guys. We got them."
Did you ever get to play Rosewood opposite Stallone?
No, it never went that
Because
far.
it was going to be a wildly different. What I always heard was that he was taking the humor out of the script, and it was going to be much more of a harder kind of.
No, he rewrote it and made it a lot more expensive because he wanted to do big car crashes down Rodeo Drive and bust up some Bentleys. And they didn't know they had Beverly Hills Cop. They didn't want to spend that much money on
Sure.
the movie, so they suggested he do Cobra. And he went off and did Cobra.
But I love that there are so many little Sylvester Stallone Easter eggs throughout
Yeah,
the series,
yeah,
which I
yeah.
think is a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll cut you guys loose on this. There's a scene near the beginning of this film where Axel's driving down the street and people just shout "Axel" or like "Fuck you, Axel," which I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
When you're driving around, and because you've been a part of our lives for so many decades, what's the thing that most people shout at you? What's the line that most people get you when you're driving around?
Our names.
well, Taggart,
Yeah?
Rosewood.
don't let him put a
Billy.
banana in your tailpipe.
Is that the thing? Is that
Banana in the tailpipe.
I had two cops in an unmarked car go, "Billy, Hey, Billy. And then I see them and they're laughing. Yeah.
Does being a part of this series guarantee that you'll never get a speeding ticket for the rest of your life?
I doubt it.
So let's give it a shot.
It's hard. Really hard to
It might
say.
help a little bit.
Just whenever, I feel like cops love when you just go, do you know who I am? Cops
Well, you know
love
what?
that. It's their favorite thing in the world in this town.
Right.
Gentlemen, I just got to tell you, as someone who was raised on VHS copies of these movies, like
Yeah, right.
I have this job because I fell in love with movies that you guys made.
wow.
So seriously, it's an honor to be able to sit
wow.
across from you. So thank you for taking the
you.
time.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.